everyone, it's Pat from Seattle Coffee Gear, and I am here today to take a look at the Solis Scala and the Breville Smart Grinder Pro. We're going to do a crew comparison of these, specifically with using the Smart Grinder Pro for slow brew methods. Obviously, it's an espresso grinder. It'll work with your espresso machine, but you can also take it a lot coarser, and it's one of the few grinders that will actually kind of work in both a slow brewing range and an espresso range. So we're going to do some comparisons against the Scala, which is a grinder that's especially used for slower brew grinding. You can use it for a pressurized espresso shot, but it's definitely designed to be more used for drip or pour over or press, something like that. So let's start by just comparing some of the case and features on these two grinders. The Scala is going to have a plastic case, but it actually has some pretty solid components on the inside. So it's still a pretty solidly built grinder. You can kind of feel it when you move it around a little bit. It's got a little bit of weight, and it feels pretty nice, even though it has a more plastic look on the outside. It's got a stepped grind adjustment, so that means it clicks through the grind settings. You just rotate the hopper to set that. It doesn't have markings on it for where you want to set it for different types of coffee. I actually prefer this because it can be different from coffee to coffee and brew method to brew method. There's no like one size fits all grind setting for pour over or drip or press. There's general areas that you want to be in, but each coffee is going to taste best at slightly different settings. So I kind of like that this one is more like talk to people who have it as well. You can search online to find some good starting points for different brew methods and then kind of dial it in a little bit so you have a really good idea of exactly what kind of grind you want for the coffee that you're brewing and how you're brewing it. So this one's got a timed grind, like dose amount. It's a little bit confusing because it doesn't just equate to seconds, because it's kind of got this like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 thing. But you'll get a feel for it as you use it, and can use it to dial in. By having the numbers like that, you can actually use it to you can just set a number to dial in a certain amount for different weights on your different grind settings. So practice with that and you can get pretty close. It's got a simple button that you just press to start the operation of the grinder, and then it has a plastic catch bin, which I actually kind of like because this plastic is not quite as sticky and staticky as some catch bins that I've seen. It still has a little bit, as with any grinder, but I think this is actually a nice little solid catch bin, even though when you first look at it, it looks pretty plastic. By comparison, the Smart Grinder Pro is, first of all, a more expensive grinder. It's a fair bit more in cost than the Scala, and it has some kind of more solid, nice looking case elements. It's got this kind of plasticky but brushed stainless sort of look on the outside that is pretty nice. The internal components on these are pretty solid as well. So all in all, this is a pretty solidly built grinder. Obviously the catch bin spot can be removed and you can put a portafilter fork in here for brewing your espresso. But if you take the fork off, you can slide this catch bin in. I really like the catch bin on this. It has a little cap on it so you can grind your coffee, say like the night before if you want, or if you grind more than you need, then you can leave some of it in. It has some nice kind of meters on the side for different brew methods and amounts. So all in all, I like this catch bin a lot. And then the operation of this grinder is going to be a lot different from the Scala. You're going to have this pretty nice touchscreen. Let's see, get it going again. The not touchscreen, sorry, but this digital display that you're going to use this dial to change grind amounts. You can change your shot setting for the different amount of cups that you want to brew. As you can see, it goes through quite a few. And then you've got your start stop button, and that's going to count this timer down based on the time. You adjust the grind by using this wheel on the side. I like this dial a lot. It kind of gives you a bit of a guide here for like going finer gives you slower extraction, going coarser gives you faster extraction, which is something that you'll memorize pretty quick, but it's really nice to have that reminder right there when you're first getting into brewing your coffee. It's got a pretty wide range here. We've got an espresso range, and then it goes into drip, percolators, and presses. So what we're gonna do now is try grinding at the coarsest setting a bit for both of these grinders, and see what kind of grinds we get. And you'll also be able to hear the difference in sound. So we'll start with the Scala. And then we're going to use the Breville for a second. So, as you can hear, the Breville is a little quieter, it has a little lower tone to it. I think the Scala is actually pretty good for noise level in its price range. It's a lot quieter than other similarly priced grinders. So we see here we get pretty coarse grinds. These aren't going to be super coarse, but they're really consistent. The Scala offers pretty impressively consistent grounds. And then we've got the Breville. So twist off the top. And you're getting a pretty similar grind level. There's a little less consistency with the Smart Grinder Pro at this grind setting, and that's kind of to be expected because, again, it's designed for a kind of wider range. It really offers its best performance in the Espresso range. So while you can use it, and it's, you know, the grinds look pretty nice here, but they're just a little bit more consistent, in my opinion, on the Scala side. But still totally usable on the Breville side at this, even at this like very coarse range. So we're going to reset here, and I'm going to grind a little bit finer on both of them. We'll go as fine as we can on the Scala, and then we'll go to sort of the start of the Espresso range on the Smart Grinder. Okay, so we're going to try these on a finer setting. It's hard to get them both to their exact closest settings in this way because obviously Smart Grinder Pro goes a lot finer for Espresso, but we're just at the top of the Smart Grinder Pro's Espresso range here. So start with the Scala again. And the Smart Grinder. Okay. So we've got some pretty nice grinds here from the Scala for being more of a brew grinder. And actually we managed to get them both pretty close in terms of their grind setting. So this is going to be a good pressurized portafilter setting on both of these grinders if you use an espresso machine that goes that way. And honestly, I mean, these two grinds are pretty indistinguishable from one another. They're really, really close. What's impressive to me is how consistent the Scala stays on the superfine end. And then obviously it's nice to see this kind of consistency out of the Smart Grinder Pro entering into the Espresso range because it goes finer than that. So what I would say about these grinders is if you just need a brew grinder, I think the Scala is a great option because it's offering pretty similar performance in the brew range to the Breville for a much lower price point. However, obviously, if you need to brew espresso and you want to brew unpressurized espresso, the Scala is just not going to do that, and the Smart Grinder Pro is going to. So I would say if it were up to me to pick out coffee setups, I would get both of them because then you're going to have a really solid brew grinder that's very affordable and offers a really great performance. It's small, easy to store if you don't make pour over or drip coffee all the time. And then you can leave your Smart Grinder Pro dialed in for your espresso shot. Because remember, if you take this out of the espresso range back into the brew range, then you're going to have to redial it in back up to its other setting. You can take note of your setting and get close to it, but the nature of dialing in espresso shots is once you take it off that setting, it's going to be difficult to get it exactly in the right place again for your espresso. So by having both, you've got great options for both. Both of these are pretty affordable grinders within their segment of what kind of coffee they're made to brew. So that's my recommendation, but otherwise they perform very similarly in the coffee brew range. So if you're picking one just for brewing coffee and price isn't a factor for you, I think you just got to go down to whichever one you like more from a looks and interface perspective. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit the like button and get subscribed to the channel so that you can get all of our videos as soon as they come out. Thanks.